Hey everyone, this is Andy, and I am basically making this email because I'm not going to be able to make it to the board meeting where you guys will be discussing the land trust funds and the use of them building a new lab. And I've gotten a lot of emails about different suggestions about different manufacturers and all kinds of fun stuff. And this is basically my reply, hopefully answering a lot of the questions that you guys sent me through email in regards to building our lab. I, again, am a proponent of building our own machines, purchasing all of our hardware and assembling it ourselves. And I know a couple of you guys are very adamant about not doing that. So I want to try and hopefully put your minds at ease and hopefully convince you guys of why we should do things this way. So here we have two different machines here, one that's a home-built machine in the gray, and then we also have a pre-built Dell machine, and we're going to compare both of these machines to one another to go over the positives and negatives of each one. So hopefully it'll be informative. Okay, so first off we're going to cover the pre-packaged, pre-bundled Dell. That's the one we're looking at right now. And you notice that this machine, I mean, it's a decent machine. I certainly don't want to bag on it. There's some things I will discuss later that aren't so great, but overall it's not a terrible machine. We do have a front-facing and front-accessible mic and headphone jack here. You also have two USB ports here, and you have your standard burner drive. Nice features, easily accessible, so you don't have to try and reach around the rear of the machine, which is nice to have these here. And one of the other things that's nice, although we wouldn't really use it, is the ability to have your machine lay flat and place the monitor on top of it, or you could have it vertical the way that I originally had it here. Okay, before we dive into the innards, the inner workings of this machine, I do want to cover some of the features that it does have and ports available to it on the rear. We do have a serial port, which is crazy how old those are, but they're still putting them in there. We do have our standard VGA port for your monitor out. We also have a SATA drive, an eSATA drive port here, and we have a display port out as well. We have a number of USB ports, your standard Ethernet port, one stereo channel audio out, and another mic input here. Relatively limited to what's available, but not a terrible feature set for the back. Could be better. Could have some HDMI and stuff like that, but not terrible. Okay, so now for the more important part, the inside. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this guy open so we can kind of get down into what is on the inside of this thing. As you can see here, we do have your standard goodies here. I'll prop it up here to make it a little bit easier to see. We do have a standard CD-ROM drive. Below this drive is where the hard drive bay sits. Everything is relatively easy to remove, simple pulls of levers and you can take things out. This is your heatsink for the processor, and then you have your power supply. You have 4 bays for RAM, so you have 2 channels. You have the white channel and the black channel. Sorry. And then you have a few of expandable ports here. In fact, you have 3. You have a PCI, and then you have 2 PCI Express ports. Looks like, or AGP. I'm not sure. I think those are AGP actually. Yeah, those are AGP. And then of course you have your battery for CMOS, stuff like that. But what I wanted to really cover was the actual quality of parts that you find in one of these. Notice that, and now I'm going to zoom in on this, see if we can get a shot of this. So just one sec here. Let's see if we can't get a zoom in on that shot there. If you look right there, right above that heatsink, you're going to find that you see the Dell symbol there, meaning that this is a Dell branded motherboard. And unfortunately the way that these work is, like any other business, Dell is going to take the lowest bidder on their motherboards. So you're basically getting the cheapest possible motherboard in your machine. Now it's a no-name brand, so it's just not going to have the performance you need. Now, the video that I mentioned earlier with the VGA out, that's right here. It's actually built into the board itself. There's no external or additional 3D capable accelerator. There's no video card, meaning that everything is going to be pushed onto this small board, which is, I mean, yeah, you're just not going to have a really good video quality coming out of this thing. Certainly not going to be able to produce anything high caliber using any sort of video. One of the other major problems here that we're going to run into is going to be your power supply. This is a pretty small power supply. It's just not going to be able to produce the power that we need. In fact, this particular power supply is only a 255 watt power supply, which is actually terrible. It may even it is almost barely enough to power what this machine is right now. You really couldn't add any sort of expansion into any one of these ports, especially a video card, without considering upgrading this, because it's only a 255 watt power supply, which is, like I said, pretty brutal. So overall, my point with this being is that we are relatively limited to what we're capable of doing. We can add some more RAM if we want to in here, but without the ability to really put in a new video card to utilize the RAM with any of the software that we would use, there's no point in upgrading the RAM at all. Like I said, if we wanted to do that, we'd have to go back and replace this as well. Now, the processor that's on this machine isn't bad. It's a decent processor. I believe it's an i3 Intel processor. It's not terrible, but again, it certainly isn't the top of the line processor either. It's a dual core processor. It's not even quad core. Anyway, so this is the Dell, and I'm going to go ahead and bring over the homemade machine now. Okay, so this is actually my computer at home that I built, but this is similar to what we would build for the school. We wouldn't use this case. This is a more expensive aluminum case, but we would build a case roughly this size. This is a mid-tower instead of the more compact one like the Dell. Now, this machine does have two drives. I do have a Blu-ray burner and a regular burner, kind of unnecessary. We would only run a standard burner. Now you'll notice that this one does not have any ports up front like the Dell did. However, this does have the ports up on top. And you'll see that in addition to the stereo out and the mic out like the other one has, this one also has a FireWire out in addition to the two USBs similar to the Dell. So you do have the same accessibility. This is all up on top, and that's mainly because this particular case is really designed to be on the ground rather than up on top of a desk next to a monitor. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the back of it, and we'll talk about what features are available in the back of this machine. Okay, so here's the back of the machine. Now you'll notice right at the bat that this machine has a considerable amount of more options than the Dell did. Some of these options wouldn't really apply, and we wouldn't try and get options like these for our machines. We don't really need to have, for example, SPDIF out, which is this is an optical audio out. We wouldn't really need to be running optical out, but this does have HDMI, and it does have a number of USB ports. It also has USB 3.0, which is the fastest right now, which the other one did not have. We have our eSATA ports. You have a FireWire port as well, and we have plenty of regular USB out as well, Ethernet just like on the Dell. You do have your 7.1 audio, again, not really necessary because we wouldn't be running that. Some extra stuff I have in here. I do have a controllable fan for the processor that you can speed up or slow down, cranking a knob. And then you'll see I also have this guy right here. This is the video card that has 3 possible outputs here, and then the fan to keep it cool. You'll also notice on the back of this thing the considerable size of this fan versus the one that was on the Dell, and then we'll go into the power supply here in a second. So this is the back of this machine. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open this thing up. You'll notice that this one has an additional fan on the side that blows air out on the side as well, and I'll go ahead and open that up. So right off the bat, you'll notice that the cables aren't in the best condition, but well, not condition, but the cables aren't the most organized, but they're there. What I want to draw your attention to first, right off the bat, is the actual fan that I have set up for this processor. Now this processor is an AMD processor, is a Phenom 2. It's a pretty nice processor, and it runs actually about the same price as the Intel processor inside of the Dell, but it actually renders more performance. Now this big bad boy right here that I have my thumb on and pointing at, this is a power supply that is, if you can read that, 1,000 watts. That's actually a little overkill for my machine right now, but I have plenty of power to keep everything going. The worst thing that can possibly happen is underpower a motherboard, because that'll tend to short things out. Alright, so kind of zooming in here, I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see the actual brand manufactured the board here. So if we can't get a little shot of that there, just give me 1 second. So there we go. There is our brand. You see that is an ASUS motherboard, which is a pretty nice motherboard. They make some pretty nice stuff. ASUS is one of the better known brands for manufacturing motherboards. So I don't have the top of the line motherboard, but I have a good upper mid-range motherboard that is going to do really well and perform really well for the applications that we're gonna need to run all of our Photoshop and Illustrator, Flash, and all the other animation suites that we use. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom all the way out here so we can get back to talking about the. Well, actually, I'll stay in a little bit. All right, kind of covered that motherboard or the power supply, anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of focus on this guy right here, right in the middle of the screen. This here is my video card, and you'll see that it's a big guy. This video card does take a significant amount of power, as you can see. It has its own power connections here. In fact, it's got 2 of them. There's a lot of power that goes in here. It has dual fans here to keep it cool. This is a pretty decent video card. This is a little more powerful than I would want to spend for our machines. I budgeted roughly around $150 to $195 per video card. This one kind of weighs in a little more than that. But this is pretty much what the video cards would look like. So we have a pretty powerful video card that allows us to run all of our gaming applications. So when we're doing in game development, we're using UDK and other engines to develop software. We'll be able to do that and render it well with an external additional video card. Also, kind of back here, hidden behind the cables, kind of hard to see, unfortunately. You'll see I have also, just like the Dell, 4 bays of RAM. I have a black channel and a blue channel. Right now I'm only using my black channel, but each one of these sticks of RAM are 8 gigs, so I'm running right now 16 gigs. Normally I run 32, but I took the 2 sticks out when I was rebuilding my machine, just haven't put them back in again. So this is expandable up to 32 gigs of RAM. And it's capable of running that. The Dell is not. The Dell is an 8 gig machine, and it tops out at 12 gigs. So the highest you can get on a stick is 4 gigs. You also notice here my hard drives. I have 2 here, one here and one here. They pretty much stack up on top of each other. We would only run 1 hard drive in our machines. This is a solid state drive. I certainly wouldn't recommend using one of those. They are very expensive, but we just run a standard drive. But one of the big things I have in here, if you notice, are the size of the fans. I have some pretty big fans here, some 80s and some 120 millimeter fans to keep this machine cool. So this machine runs really well. I still have plenty of expansion slots to add more stuff if we needed to. And that's kind of the big thing about building our own machines that I really wanted to stress, is the fact that we can actually expand upon them. So the initial investment that we make to buy and build the machines, sure, it will be pricey, but we can extend the life of our machines for a lot longer because we can get in them. One of the issues we have with the Macs we're running right now is that they're really not expandable. We can add more RAM, but we can't go in and swap out a video card, whereas we can with this. So if we decide, in the future or a few years from now that, hey, the technology is kind of gotten crazy and our video card that we're running right now just isn't sufficient enough, we can buy a new video card and just slap it in here and keep going. So that's one of the really nice advantages of building your own machines. Again, the reason why I'm leaning towards this is, we're really talking, when we're building them ourselves, the budget, we're probably going to spend, at least what I figured, about $150 more per machine than we would if we bought them from Dell. And that $150, I mean, that's a video card. So anyways, if you guys have any questions, you can email me. You guys have my email address. I would love to be at the board meeting, but unfortunately, with the schedule that I have, I just won't be able to make it. So I hope this video is helpful. Again, if you guys have questions, please email me, and let's get this purchase done so we can get that room built and we can get these machines built, and hope to talk to you guys soon. Thanks, appreciate it. Bye-bye.